Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a show where we will provide you fresh insights into South Asia's geopolitical, strategic and security situation. Let's take a look at the headlines first. PoJK anger goes global, thousands rally against Pakistan in London. Pakistan's security crisis deepens after deadly Balochistan attack. And India deals major blow to Pakistan-backed LET network in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan's crackdown in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir is now facing growing international scrutiny. Weeks after the Joint Awami Action Committee's mass movement triggered widespread unrest in PoJK, thousands of members of the Kashmiri diaspora marched through the streets of London, accusing Islamabad of human rights violations, political repression, and the use of force against peaceful protesters. The demonstration, joined by Baloch and Pashtun activists, demanded the release of detained political leaders and called on the international community to hold Pakistan accountable. Here's a report.
What began as a movement demanding basic rights in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has now evolved into an international campaign challenging Pakistan's actions. Thousands of members of the Kashmiri diaspora gathered in central London for what organizers called the London Kashmir Million March. Waving flags and carrying placards, protesters marched from Parliament Square to the Pakistani High Commission, raising slogans against Islamabad and demanding justice for those killed and arrested during the ongoing unrest in PoJK. The protest was not limited to Kashmiris alone. Members of the Baloch and Pashtun communities also joined the march, drawing attention to what they described as a broader pattern of repression by Pakistan's military establishment in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The latest demonstration comes against the backdrop of a deepening crisis in PoJK. The unrest began after the Joint Awami Action Committee launched protests on June 5 over governance issues and basic rights. The movement intensified after several protesters were allegedly killed in firing by Pakistani security forces. Since then, Pakistan has been accused of launching a sweeping crackdown, arresting Joint Awami Action Committee leaders, political activists, and civil society members while tightening its grip over the region. Among those arrested is Joint Awami Action Committee Chairman Shaukat Nawaz Mir, whose detention has become a rallying point for protesters both inside PoJK and across the global Kashmiri diaspora.
ये तो साबित हो गया कि अब पाकिस्तानी ऑक्युपाइड जम्मू कश्मीर के लोग मनहसुल कौम पूरी दुनिया में पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ उठ खड़े हुए हैं। अभी जो तकरीर की है सरदार अमान ने, उसमें उन्होंने चुनौती दे दी है कि हम लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल की तरफ जाएंगे, हम राजौरी की तरफ जाएंगे। यानी कि अब लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल जो है वो लगता ये है कि कुछ अरसे में अगर ये मसला हल ना हुआ तो फिर ये 5 जुलाई को जो आपने देखा है पूरी दुनिया में हजारों लाखों कश्मीरी निकले हैं, तो ये मुझे लगता ये है कि ये फिर जो जम्मू में इनके भाई हैं, जो इनके हमवतन हैं, उनको ये पुकारेंगे, उस तरफ जाएंगे।
The London March is the latest sign that Pakistan's handling of the PoJK crisis is no longer confined to the region itself. Over the past several weeks, demonstrations have been held in multiple countries, while rights activists have carried the issue to international platforms, including side events at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Activists have accused Pakistan of arbitrary arrests, excessive use of force, communication restrictions, and suppressing peaceful political dissent, urging an independent international investigation into the situation. The latest mobilization in London reflects growing frustration among overseas Kashmiris who argue that Islamabad has responded to demands for democratic rights with arrests and intimidation instead of dialogue. Meanwhile, political uncertainty is also growing inside Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. As authorities prepare for the scheduled assembly elections later this month, many protesters have questioned the legitimacy of the electoral process, alleging that the existing political system functions under Islamabad's control rather than reflecting the will of the people.
And I don't think that the elections called on the 27th of July are going to be held anymore, because people are now saying that we are going to boycott it. They say we are not going to vote for another puppet assembly. So we'll have to see where this movement goes, how far people take it, and how far actually Pakistani stubbornness lasts. And they are killing, they shoot to kill, they kill. They are, doing straight firing on the peaceful protesters.
With protests spreading beyond Pakistan's borders and international attention steadily increasing, pressure is mounting on Islamabad over its handling of the crisis in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. For the demonstrators in London, the message was clear. The movement for political rights in PoJK has crossed borders, and demands for accountability are becoming harder for Pakistan to ignore.
Pakistan's security crisis appears to be deepening with another major terrorist attack, exposing the fragile situation in Balochistan. At least 9 police personnel were killed after terrorists stormed a police post in Ziarat district, while Pakistan claims dozens of terrorists were later eliminated in a counter-operation. The attack, claimed by the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, once again raises serious questions over Islamabad's ability to contain growing terrorism, even as it continues to grapple with insurgencies across Balochistan. Our report.
Balochistan has once again turned into the epicenter of Pakistan's worsening security crisis. An overnight assault on a police post in Ziarat district left at least 9 police personnel dead, including senior commandos, while several others remain missing. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it inflicted heavy casualties and seized weapons and military equipment during the raid. The encounter reportedly continued for several hours before Pakistani security forces launched a clearance operation. According to Pakistan's military, at least 54 terrorists were killed in 3 separate operations across Balochistan since July 6. However, the security forces also acknowledged that 42 police and military personnel lost their lives during the same period, highlighting the scale of the challenge facing the Pakistani state.
ये जो 3 मैंने आपको बड़े ऑपरेशंस बताए, इनमें 4 सिविलियन पहले और बाद में पुलिस के हमारे जवान, फौज के जवान, तो टोटल हमारी जो शहादतें हैं वो 42 कीमती जानें इस मुल्क की अल्लाह ताला को उन्होंने अपनी जानें सुपुर्द की हैं, अपने मुल्क का हिफाजत करते हुए, बहादुरी के साथ लड़ते हुए.
While the TTP has intensified attacks on police stations, military convoys and security installations since the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan, Balochistan has also witnessed a long-running separatist movement driven by allegations of political exclusion, economic exploitation and human rights abuses. The province has become one of Pakistan's most volatile regions, where security personnel, infrastructure projects and government installations are frequently targeted. Despite repeated military operations, Islamabad has struggled to establish lasting control over large parts of the province.
See, the TTP is much more Islamic Sharia propagating armed group. The BLA, Balochistan Army, is much more ethnicity, autonomy, CPEC opposition and other such activities. So these both groups have slightly different agendas, but yes, they are both overlapping also. Now, beyond Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was the traditional base of the Pakistani Taliban, they seem to be moving also into North Balochistan. And this latest attack, one of the latest attacks on a water project which would supply water to the city, has again shown that what the Pakistani Taliban is trying is to destroy, damage the credibility of the Pakistani state in the regions where it can have or make an impact.
Pakistan has consistently blamed Afghanistan-based terrorist sanctuaries for the growing violence, accusing the Afghan Taliban of providing safe havens to TTP fighters. Kabul has repeatedly rejected these allegations. The tensions have also spilled across the border, with Pakistan carrying out airstrikes inside Afghanistan in recent months. Afghan authorities and the United Nations have alleged that civilians were among those killed, further straining relations between the two neighbors. The violence comes against the backdrop of persistent unrest in Balochistan. The resource-rich province has remained plagued by separatist violence, enforced disappearance allegations, economic grievances, and repeated security crackdowns.
If you look at the number of terrorist attacks, what Pakistan calls terrorists, the Pakistani Taliban and the Balochi Liberation Army and others, the number of terrorist attacks have been going up. Last year, according to some estimates, in 2025, there were over 600 or approximately 600 attacks by the TTP. The year before, in 2024, it was around 500. Similarly, the Balochistan Liberation Army, last year, it said that they had around 400 attacks. And in 2024, it was about 300 or 250 attacks. So in the past 2 years, it seems the number of reported or claimed attacks has been going up, both by the Pakistani Taliban and also by the Balochistan Liberation Army, BLA. So it does show that whatever strategy Pakistan has with regards to Pakistani Taliban is not working.
With terrorists continuing to strike security installations, casualties mounting among Pakistan's own forces and instability spreading across its western frontier, the latest violence in Balochistan once again raises uncomfortable questions about Islamabad's ability to contain growing internal threats. As Pakistan confronts simultaneous challenges from militant groups and regional instability, Balochistan remains a stark reminder that the country's security crisis is far from over.
A major counter-terrorism operation in Jammu and Kashmir has dealt a significant blow to the Pakistan-backed terror infrastructure operating in the valley. Security forces have eliminated a self-styled Lashkar-e-Taiba commander in Shopian district after a prolonged anti-terror operation, while the search continues for another trapped terrorist. The encounter comes amid sustained efforts by Indian security forces to dismantle terror networks that New Delhi says are supported, trained and directed from across the border. Here's a report.
A key Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist has been killed in an ongoing anti-terror operation in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian district. This terrorist has been identified as 26-year-old Zakir Ahmed Gyani, a self-styled commander of the banned Pakistan-based terror outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba. Security agencies had classified him as an A++ category terrorist. The operation began on July 3rd after surveillance cameras detected the movement of two armed terrorists in a dense orchard in Shopian's Mimandar area. A joint team of the Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police and the Central Reserve Police Force immediately launched a massive cordon and search operation. After 5 days of intermittent exchanges of fire and extensive combing operations, security forces recovered Gyani's body. The search, however, continues for another Lashkar-e terrorist identified as Latif Bhatt, who is believed to remain trapped inside the cordoned area. The Army's Specialized Victor Force has sealed all possible escape routes, while the orchard has been eliminated during night operations to prevent terrorists from exploiting the thick summer foliage for cover. According to officials, Gyani disappeared from his home in Kulgam in September 2023 before joining the Resistance Front or TRF, an outfit widely identified by Indian security agencies as a proxy of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba.
First and foremost is that this operation, I would say, is the culmination of great efforts, multi-efforts by the security forces, a coordination between Jammu Kashmir Police, the CRPF, BSF and the RR. Now, what has happened is, in this particular encounter, technology has played a very big role. The administration and the security forces, they have installed multi-cameras, CCTV cameras around Kashmir Valley, especially in Shopian, where the apple orchards are there and which has been a favorite hiding ground for all these terrorists. And facial recognition has been fed into all those cameras. So once what has happened is that some CCTV cameras have caught these two people on, and they have been recognized as terrorists. And the cordon and search operation started. It has taken them 5 days to eliminate these people, but there is still another terrorist that is there that is supposed to be hiding.
The latest operation underscores the continuing security challenge posed by Pakistan-backed terror groups in Jammu and Kashmir. Lashkar-e-Taiba, headquartered in Pakistan, has long been designated as a terrorist organization by India, the United Nations, the United States and several other countries. Over the years, Indian authorities have repeatedly accused Pakistan-based handlers of providing logistical support, recruitment, training and infiltration routes to LAT operatives attempting to sustain militancy in the valley. Security experts say outfits such as the Resistance Front have increasingly been used as proxy fronts to mask the involvement of Pakistan-based organizations while containing terror activities in Jammu and Kashmir. Indian agencies maintain that despite attempts to rebrand terrorist groups, their command structures, recruitment networks and operational guidance remain linked to Pakistan-backed terror infrastructure. The operation in Shopian is being viewed as another step in India's sustained campaign to dismantle these networks and prevent infiltration, recruitment and terrorist attacks in the Union territory. Experts say the shrinking number of local recruits reflects the weakening influence of Pakistan-backed terror outfits even as they continue efforts to push infiltration and sustain militancy in the valley.
Now with Zakir Ghanai going, it is going to be it is sure that there will be very few people who would be now taking up arms and all to get into it, because now everyone is realizing that taking up arms is not the answer, because this is the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism that is there in the valley and it is not an indigenous one. And this is what the youth has realized, and therefore we see that today there are no takers for it. The old underground, overground workers are there who are still there, and the security forces are on the job to identify and send them to jail. But the younger generation is now not taking up these arms because of this reason only.
With one Lashkar commander neutralized and the search for the remaining terrorists still underway, security forces remain on high alert across South Kashmir. Officials say operations will continue until the entire area is sanitized, reaffirming India's ongoing efforts to disrupt Pakistan-backed terrorist network operating in Jammu and Kashmir.
The National Investigation Agency has filed a supplementary charge sheet naming Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed as a key conspirator in the 2025 Pahalgam terror attack that claimed 26 civilian lives. The charge sheet alleges that Saeed masterminded the conspiracy from across the border, reinforcing India's long-standing position that Pakistan continues to sponsor cross-border terrorism through proxy organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Resistance Front. To understand the strategic, military and diplomatic implications of this development, we are joined by defense expert Dhruv Katoch. Hello sir, welcome to Newsweek South Asia.
Thank you.
My first question to you is, the NIA has now formally named Hafiz Saeed in the Pahalgam terror attack. What is your say in the matter?
No, I think this is a very important development. I've always felt that as far as terrorism is concerned, one of the aspects is, of course, we kill the terrorists and eliminate the problem. But a far better way is actually to try these people by a criminal court and find them guilty. And that has a much larger impact. Now, in this particular case, the Lashkar-e-Taiba was responsible for the Pahalgam attack, and Hafiz Saeed is their leader. So, by trying Hafiz Saeed in a court in India, though he won't be present, he will be tried in absentia and he will be convicted. And I think that sends a very strong message to terrorists all across the world, especially the ones who are operating against India.
For years, India has maintained that Pakistan-backed terror groups are responsible for attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. Does this charge sheet strengthen India's case internationally?
No, actually, India's case has been strengthened internationally for a very long time. Which was why it was basically because of India's pressure that Pakistan has earlier been put on the FATF list. Recently, they got out of the FATF list because of certain compulsions of the United States, where they wanted Pakistan's help in certain issues, especially with respect to Iran. So Pakistan came out of the FATF list, but now I think it's high time to put them back in again. So to put them back into the FATF list, I think this charge sheet is important.
Despite being designated a global terrorist, Hafiz Saeed has continued to wield influence through organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba and its proxy, the Resistance Front. What does this indicate about Pakistan's counter-terrorism commitments?
As far as Hafiz Saeed is concerned, though he's been designated as a terrorist, so he won't be traveling outside the country, he won't be traveling outside Pakistan, but within Pakistan everybody knows. Not only is he moving around freely, they carry out fundraising collections, he gives speeches to people, large crowds attended there. So all those activities are going on, nothing has been hidden. And most of these activities of his are covered by the Pakistani press themselves. So for us it's no surprise, for the world also it is no surprise. However, the world doesn't take action because of different reasons. Whenever they have interest which Pakistan can assist them in, they turn a blind eye to these activities. That is all that is there to it.
Pakistan has repeatedly claimed that organizations like TRF are indigenous Kashmiri groups. The investigation reportedly traced TRF's digital communication back to Pakistan. How damaging is this finding to Pakistan's narrative?
No, you know the Resistance Front is an offshoot of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and all the directions, instructions, training, it comes from across the border. Now Pakistan knows it, and we know it, and the world knows it. So it doesn't really matter what the narrative, what the Pakistanis say. This is not the TRF is not a homegrown organization. If it was a homegrown organization, I think we'd have dealt with it in a totally different manner. It wouldn't have required the type of force which we are using against organizations like the Lashkar-e-Taiba. So Pakistan Pakistan will never admit to these things. That's the nature of the state. But ultimately, the truth is the truth.
Even after global pressure and FATF scrutiny, terror groups linked to Hafiz Saeed appear capable of planning major attacks. Why has Pakistan failed or refused to dismantle this infrastructure?
No, I don't think Pakistan will ever dismantle this infrastructure. They're using this infrastructure as a weapon against India. You see, when you look at it in a different manner, let us say there's a hot war between India and Pakistan, and a major conflict like Operation Sindoor erupted. Now, Pakistan can never win a war like that. A conventional war cannot be won by Pakistan, which is why they go for the unconventional means. Asymmetric warfare is something by which they can keep India down. The old policy which Bhutto had started bleeding with 1,000 cuts. So that is the policy which they're still trying to employ. That is why when Pahalgam took place, India took a different stance this time. Two statements were made. One was that talks and terror will not go together, and two, blood and water will not flow together. So ultimately this is what is putting pressure on Pakistan now.
Following the Pahalgam attack, India launched Operation Sindoor, targeting terror infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Looking back to the findings of the NIA validate India's military response.
You see, we know it was Pakistan which was behind the attack. Those attackers and ultimately those three people who physically carried out the attack, they have been eliminated. They are Pakistani people. But more importantly, we've got all the radio communications which have emanated from these people back to their control in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. So their control is there. The people are here. The communication we have actually got hold of. So from our side, there is no doubt at all. Pakistan will continue to deny it. There's nothing we can do about that. I mean, even if you catch Pakistan red-handed, they'll deny it. But more importantly, the world will actually, it may not penalize Pakistan, but they know what the truth is. So to that extent, I think we have got international support. While it may not lead to a total condemnation of Pakistan, but I think they appreciate India's stance, and which is why when India went for Operation Sindoor, the world body was with us. And I think that's a very important step.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@nin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.